Good evening and welcome to this update briefing. Once I've run through the order of march and the way that I'm going to try and run the meeting, I will then hand over to the Master. The plan is that the Master will speak first, followed by myself, and then past Master Robert Dalrymple. We will then return to the Master, who will sum up with some good news. It will then be your turn to ask questions. Now, I know that the vast majority of you are past masters I don't mean that in the way of past masters, but past masters in the way of using Zoom and asking questions. And I know that most of the questions will be aimed at the Master and the Chairman of PHL. However, do feel free to ask questions on any topics to do with the company that you would like to know the answers on. As we're joined by past Master Peter Baker, the Charity Steward, and other members of the court who are with us today, all to support the Master. I've got well over 50, nearly 60 screens in front of me, and so I can only see about 20 of you at any one time. I will continue to scroll back and forward. There are a number of ways you can get my attention to ask your question. For those of you that know how and are technically minded, please use the messaging system at the bottom of your screen, either a private message to me, noting, of course, that I am down as the court, the Master and the court. If you send it to Garth Manger, it will go to Ali. She will then tell me, so don't worry if you do that. Either say that you want to ask a question or put your question down so that we can read it. Or you can try waving at us in this way. I'm sure you can see, you put a thumb up and it will wave. Or you could even revert to the age-old tradition of just doing that. But keep doing that, because I may not be on the screen that's got you on it at the time, and I'll have to move back and forward to find you. You're all on mute, which is fantastic. Please remember you're on mute, and when you come to ask a question, please remember to take yourself off mute. I can't unmute you, unfortunately. And therefore, welcome, without further ado, Master.
Thank you. Good evening, plasterers, and welcome to this members' information evening. It's good to see you all, and I hope you've come well prepared, because we're going to need a glass or two to help the medicine go down. And some 7 months into this COVID pandemic here, and it's been 9 months since we last met in fellowship. And that was the Masters and Clerks dinner in January. We are certainly living in unmatched and detached times. I've spoken with some of our longest serving members who tell me they cannot recall a livery year, without a banquet, without a dinner, or a Christmas supper, nor a time when members were simply precluded from meeting up. As the renter warden Tim Stokes reminded me, our livery company is over 500 years old and has seen fires, plagues, and world wars, to which we must now add COVID-19, yet another hurdle for we the members to overcome. But overcome it, we will. We will do this together with resilience, sound management, sheer guts, and determination. Our motto, "Let brotherly love continue," can be interpreted in many ways, but fellowship and being concerned for each other is as appropriate now as it ever was. It is what unites us, it is what strengthens us, and it is what defines us as plasterers. Being no doubt, COVID-19 has had and continues to have very significant impact on our livery and its finances. Our hall is a premier events venue in the City of London, and it is for us a working hall. The income it generates funds our livery company. It pays for the upkeep of the hall, the courtroom, the clerk's office, and it pays for all the salaried staff. It's been closed since March, and all income has been lost. Until the event and hospitality venues are allowed to reopen, this pandemic will continue to deprive us of any income, and that financial loss is significant, as we will hear from Robert, the Chairman of PHL, later. Whilst all our traditional events have been cancelled, behind the scenes, the business of our livery company has continued much as usual. The clerk's office has remained open, but with the clerk and the assistant clerk working from home for some days of the week. In September, all the committees of the company met as scheduled, and the autumn court meeting took place on the 6th of October, albeit by Zoom. I chaired that court meeting for the first time as master, and in this courtroom and with the clerk and the assistant clerk in attendance. We had a very heavy workload that day, and our focus was preparing the ground for those difficult decisions that are coming down the tracks at us. The court made very important decisions, which I will now tell you about. On progression, it unanimously agreed the proposal that the current master, wardens, and the deputy master serve a second year in their respective offices. This decision impacts on all members of the court and their terms of service on the court, which means that the livery year starting in July 2020 will extend until July 2022. Yes, that means I will get to serve a second year as your master. The wardens and myself are grateful to the court for this timely decision. It gave us clarity, and with it the ability to take stock and refocus. For me, it means less haste and more speed. I can now look at my master's year in a more measured way and from a different end of the telescope. The court also renewed and extended until April 2021 the emergency provisions it put in place in this year's April quarterly court meeting. It agreed it could meet at 3 days' notice instead of the usual 3 weeks, and by any form of electronic or telephonic means if necessary. In the absence of the court being able to meet, it was decided that the master, the deputy master, upper warden, and the clerk could collectively take any urgent decisions on behalf of the company. Important provisions to enable the business of the company to function in these unmatched and detached times. The court also endorsed the following diversity statement, which will be developed more fully in the company's next strategic plan. We are committed to promoting equality, fairness, and respect, and an atmosphere where diversity is recognized and valued. Holding this information evening is a first for us. In the absence of formal dinners and events, communication with our members is paramount. During these detached times, we want to ensure you all know what is going on and, when necessary, how you may help. We want to hear from you, our members. So these evenings will continue on a quarterly basis, albeit not necessarily using the same format and the same presenters. The next one will be at the end of January 2021, after the January quarterly court meeting. Meanwhile, you will be kept up to date with news and activities by letter, email, the company website, and on social media. The new edition of the yearbook is now available on the website. This is indicative of the direction of travel for communicating with our members going forward. We have had to embrace Zoom, and I would ask you to embrace our website. For those who have not ventured in that direction for some time, you will be surprised by the changes and the wealth of information that's available. Do not be put off by thinking you cannot remember your password. Yes, there's a members area where a password is needed, but the bulk of information is in the general area. In that area, you will access latest news and the clerks' newsletters and my blogs, and much, much more. But do not worry, a hard copy of the yearbook will be posted to you in the usual way, and those who have asked the clerk for the clerk's newsletter by post, they will still receive it that way. I'm now going to pass you over to the clerk, who will tell you more about the virtual events that he has planned for us to take us to the year end.
Awesome, thank you very much. Placius, thank you. I thought it was worth just updating you on a number of the events and ongoings that many of you will have picked up from the newsletter on the website or in various emails that myself and Ali have sent out. All of this will be repeated in the newsletter that will be out early next week. Ali and I are continuing to work from the office on a number of days each week, and the phones are patched through on the days that we are working from home, so you can continue to contact us throughout the time that we're not in the office. Please continue to phone and email, and we'll do our best to help you where we can. The yearbook in hard copy is going to be sent out to you in the next week or so. It's a very good read, but as the master has said, if you can't wait, it is already loaded onto the website for you to start browsing through it. This year, we are not sending out the members list as it's now loaded onto the website. For those of you that are unable to use the website, we will be sending hard copy to those people as we do with everything else. As I said, the newsletter will come out next week, and the following week, we're holding an online past masters meeting. Encouragingly, we have 22 past masters that are going to attend this. I'm afraid this is a closed session, but you can join in the future. All you need to do is become a master. On the 19th of November, we've managed to secure a very talented speaker, Helen Fry. She is a well-known British historian and lecturer who's written a number of books on the Second World War. And we're fortunate that she has kindly agreed to come and speak to us about her latest book, MI9, A History of the Secret Service for Escape and Evasion in World War II. Details will be sent out shortly to allow you to get the Zoom details to be able to zoom in for that event. And that's on the 19th of November. On the 2nd of December, at 6 p.m, we will be holding an online carol service. This will not be on Zoom, as it is part live and part pre-recorded. And so it will be on a YouTube channel, and we will send you the details. The newsletter will have more details about this, and we will be asking for you to register so that we can send you the order of service and the details of how you log on to the system. We should have singing from Peterborough and St Paul's, and we will be joined by our chaplain, Charles Taylor. And that will then take us to Christmas. It was my sense that people had generally zoomed out, and we thought we should then break until the new year. Please tell me if I'm wrong, and we'll try and fit something else in, but I think a lot of people have had way too much time on Zoom over the last couple of months. But we will continue with monthly Zoom meetings after the new year until we welcome you back into the hall. Finally, I'd like to report that I have remained in contact with all our charities and military affiliates throughout the last couple of months. They, like you, are getting on with their lives and jobs, but all are looking forward to renewing friendships in the hall next year. You may be interested to know that Peterborough Cathedral has appointed a new chorister for us to sponsor. And Greg Smith, as many of you know, is our new Prince's Foundation student. Through the master of Zoom, I'm going to try and show you a picture of each of them. Usefully, I put their names up on there for you to see. I hope you could tell which was which without me having to tell you, but we have Poppy Ormond from Peterborough and Greg Smith. We finally have got a picture of his face. All the other pictures we were sent with him working for the Prince's Foundation. I'm sure it won't be long before we see both of them here in the hall. I'm going to stop now, and I'm going to pass over to the Chairman of PHL.
Thank you, Garth. Master, fellow liveryman. Knowing where to start presenting this report to you in these very difficult times with very fluid and changing circumstances happening almost daily has been quite difficult. So forgive me if I make some presumptions, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have at the end. But let's go back to the beginning part of 2020. PHL relies totally on its income, apart from its investments, on the hospitality industry. and because of this, is facing the biggest crisis in its history. As of March this year, we've had absolutely no income to speak of. Every single event, every single wedding, every single conference, every single business meeting and dinner has either been postponed or had to be cancelled. Government legislation changes regularly, and with the announcement of the rule of 6 on the 9th of September not being bad enough, when the City of London was designated Tier 2 on the 15th of October, this scuppered all our hard worked on plans for any kind of reopening. It was hoped from government intimations that to the hospitality industry in late August that we'd be back in some sort of business on October the 1st. The hall is absolutely ideal for social distancing events. We can seat up to 150 people at 1 metre apart, and we are an ideal venue in which to be safe, operating under our banner of a space in which to be safe. However, we are classified by the government as an events, banqueting, conference and hospitality organisation, and as such, we are prohibited from operating our normal events. The board of PHL has committed with the finance that it has available in the bank to maintaining the Livery Hall and the funding of the clerk's office until at least July next year. The cold truth of this matter is that by July next year, if we continue to have no income whatsoever, our bank balance will be depleted to almost zero. We do have a portfolio of investments and a small property portfolio, which we can sell parts of should it be needed. Our asset and the clerk's office is an expensive thing to run. So where are we today? We have no income coming in from events via our normal income stream, and we have an events and catering partner that is in financial dire straits, but with a desire and business plan to survive. But other like operations have failed in the last few months. We do have an ongoing contract with them, along with an agreed addendum to that written contract that was written in August, covering the rest of 2021. But the truth of the matter is that it looks very unlikely that we are going to get anything that resembles normality until at least halfway through 2021. And that, to be honest, is being optimistic. As a result of this, PHL is prepared to look at any usage of the space in a profitable manner and will adapt accordingly. So with no finances coming from our normal income stream, what are we doing and what are our intentions as the pandemic seems to worsen again and a full lockdown becomes a possibility? PHL hosted a meeting with a small number of like-minded livery companies and venues under the stewardship of Create at Placetress Hall on the 2nd of October. Preliminary discussions on pooling ideas, possibly resources and marketing were explored. The discussions were constructive and useful, and it was clear that neither Create or CH&Co are able to maintain a full staff in every venue in their portfolio. So a plan is in its infancy to put a small team together to market, promote, sell and run an exclusive small number of venues. The team will comprise of those who have the necessary expertise in our type of space, and we would discuss how best Brendan Owen, our venues manager's services, might be retained. It is PHL's intention to continue to work with the like-minded liveries and venues whilst the crisis continues to decimate our business. London's events and entertainment industry is considered to be operating at either extremely low volumes or is closed. A further meeting is planned in November, and I had confirmation today that it is going to be on the 11th. It has to be realised that the lack of people returning to the city and the fear factor of going into town, along with a change in the way the pandemic is progressing, which manifests on the numbers that would be allowed to gather, is causing a complete lack of inquiries. We must hope that when the new normality is established, we will see a rapid return to our hall generating an income again. We have established our cost base and continue to look for additional savings, endeavouring not to make redundancies. Redundancies are expensive, and because PHL has a small team with an embedded set of skills and knowledge of the intricate workings of the hall, they would be difficult to replace when the upturn arrives. furloughing, rotation furlough, the job retention scheme, and the job retention bonus have and will be used to assist us in maintaining our staff. Every conceivable option that we have come up with to date has been considered, and there will be further options that we will consider at future dates. But to give you an example of that, we have produced a film pack that has been made available and actively promoted to location scouting companies in the film and TV industry. Although this is something that we have not actively promoted in the past, it is a source of income, albeit small beer in comparison with the events or the money that events generate. The hall became the green room, dressing room, and artist makeup area for the production of Baptiste 2, a scene or two for which was being filmed at Salters Hall 2 weeks ago. It appears the film and TV production has a different legislation when it comes to numbers allowed to be working together. We saw 57 cast and crew through the doors, with 2 medics permanently on site, along with two COVID-19 specialist staff. All the cast and crew were tested daily for coronavirus, and the whole booking was professionally managed under PHL and Create's strict supervision. We are currently in negotiations with MasterChef and Netflix for a number of productions. Although you may have read that Netflix figures for new subscribers has been below expectations, they do currently have 120 programs in production in the UK, a market as yet untapped by PHL, but notoriously difficult to break into. In conclusion, PHL's intention is we keep the hall running in a state of readiness for when the restrictions are lifted. We maintain the clerk's office with clerk and assistant clerk and the small PHL operations team, utilising whatever government help is available. We continue, if possible, with Create as our events and catering partner, and negotiate the best possible deals with them as circumstances dictate. This is our strategy, but it comes at a huge cost. It would mean that if a lack of events in the hall continues, we will have exhausted all our cash at bank by this time next year. We are not enjoying any rental income from Create, even though it has not been written off. The total predicted loss for 16 months, taking us to July 2021, if we receive no income and maintain the livery and the hall as we have been doing, will be substantial. It should be noted that in a normal year, we achieve at least a break even on our costs, which broadly equate to our income. We have reduced our overheads by cancelling or postponing contracted, scheduled and regular works, benefiting from different terms with some suppliers and taking advantage, as I've already mentioned, of government schemes, without which our P&L would be further damaged. PHL will record a significant loss at the end of both 2020 and 2021, eliminating cash reserves and possibly reducing investments. PHL's capital base at the end of 2021, however, will be sufficient to allow the company to continue to trade and benefit from any hoped for increase in activity. So to some good news. The entrance hall enhancement project, that finances for which were so generously given by our late fellow liveryman John Robinson and enabled by Derek Stubbs, is to go ahead. The refurbishment was originally planned to take place in August 2020 for completion in January 2021, but was put on hold due to the lockdown in March. It was felt that our event partner would need the fullest flexibility to let the hall under COVID restrictions, and that it was not the right time to put the hall out of commission for weddings and other events needing full access to the hall. With the significant additional restrictions placed on the events industry by the government, effectively closing the hall for the events until at least Christmas and most likely March, the board of PHL decided at a meeting on the 2nd of October to progress the works to the entrance hall to be completed by mid-March. This has also been approved by Create. Progress to date is that the key contractors have been contacted to ascertain their continued interest in the project, based on the scaffolding being erected before Christmas to carry out initial protection and enabling works with the installation of the plasterworks commencing in January. for painting to be completed in mid-March. The plastering contractor, Locker & Riley, has agreed timings. The scaffolding company believes that it can carry out their quoted works within 2 weeks' notice. And the mechanical and electrical contractors are content with the extent of the works. And the preferred decorator has the capacity and is currently looking at the finished drawings with a view to providing definitive costings. The scaffolding will be designed to maintain a fire exit through the existing entrance so that the hall could be used for events where the entrance hall is not essential, such as our own livery events, if we can have them again. It is hoped that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, all the necessary stakeholders will have been identified and informed, and where needed, orders placed. This is great news, as I said, and will allow for a much needed celebration of the 50-year anniversary of the laying of the foundation stone at the May banquet, when we all hope the restrictions are lifted and COVID-19 is under control. Thank you for your attention, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you all.
Well, I said that we needed a drink to take some of the medicine that we've got to take. The news about the entrance hall is good news. It gives us something that will embellish our the 50th anniversary celebrations of the laying of our foundation stone of our hall at our banquet in May 2021. The planning for that is at its early stages, and I sincerely hope that event will go ahead. You will hear more about it in the next membership information evening in January, plus news of the activities and celebrations for the Deputy Master's Shrievalty year. So next year, there is an awful lot that we will have to look forward to. Now, to get back to some news on membership, in recent years, our company has been fortunate to have record numbers of new freemen and liverymen. A fantastic achievement by our membership committee and those prospective new members evenings held here in this courtroom. To all those new members who have joined our company in the past 2 years, I know you have not been able to experience a full livery calendar of events. It will happen. I have been impressed by the way you have supported the events that we have been able to offer, and I thank you for doing so. In terms of new members, we must be realistic about what is achievable in this livery year, but we do not want to lose momentum. If you have already attended one of those prospective new members evenings and your guests want to apply to become a member, then please continue with the process. Contact the clerk's office for the forms, and if you have not already got them, then make sure you get them and get them filled in. This is also a good time to consider our apprenticeship scheme. In a year when 3 new freemen were installed via the apprenticeship route, it was disappointing not to have new apprentices this year. It would be good to see some there next year. So if you have interested members of your family aged 14 to 16 years of age, please consider the apprenticeship scheme. A successful apprenticeship is the pathway to becoming a freeman of this company and a freeman of the City of London at the age of 21. So please look out for updates on membership, the apprenticeship scheme, and other initiatives from the membership committee. An initiative which is coming into fruition is the Young Livery Group for members aged 45 years and younger. This group now has its own page on our website, and I really do have great hopes for it. Its chosen leaders will drive this forward, supported initially by the membership committee. So I say to this Young Livery Group, your seat at the table awaits you. Have your say, evolve the dynamics of this company. Now, today I received excellent news that Liveryman Megan Manzi has agreed to lead this group. So Megan, you have my best wishes, and I know you will be an inspiring leader. In October, all members were sent a general membership survey to complete. If you have not already completed this survey, I would urge you to do so. We need your feedback, we need your insight. The results will provide important information and substance for the next strategic plan. All charities have sadly been affected by COVID-19, and the funds of our own charity have been depleted by dividend cuts and fewer donations. However, with help and donations from our members, for which you have our heartfelt thanks, our charity will continue to support community-based causes and our military affiliates. I have been amazed and grateful to all members and 282 Air Cadets for supporting my chosen charity, the Children's Society. The response has been truly remarkable. There are many positives in this COVID-19 year, and perhaps I have saved the best for last. Next week, our clerk would have been with us for 6 months, and I know most of you are yet to meet him. You will not be disappointed. I've had the privilege of working with him throughout that time and closely with him since becoming master in July. With our support and goodwill, I'm in no doubt he will provide strong stewardship and a safe pair of hands to see us through this crisis and beyond. I'll now pass you back to our clerk so that we can start taking questions from you. Thank you.
Master, thank you very much, and thank you for your kind words. I'm now going to fail at the first hurdle and not be able to get to you for questions, I suspect. However, we will now go to you for questions. I just remind you that I've got 3 screens in front of me, so if you're waving, I may not see you initially, but please continue to wave. So please, if there are any questions, please let me know. Hold up your hands. I think we've got a question. Oh, no, that's just a congratulations. Anybody would like to ask a question?
You're not going to let us off that lightly, are you? Oh, there's one.
Ozzy, over to you, please. Come off mute. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all so friendly faces. Obviously, thank you very much for the updates, Master and Chairman of PHL. Obviously, tough times ahead. As a member of the Royal Air Force Club, our president pushed out a request about 3 months ago for assistance with regards to the financial status of the club, because obviously the RAF Club, similar to yourselves, is a dining facility and a accommodation base for military personnel and retired servicemen and women in the city. And through that channeled approach direct to its members, they have so far raised just shy of £500,000. And I have signed a new direct debit system to join an additional funding mechanism for that, where they can claim gift aid and things to aid the Royal Air Force Club continuing these tough times as well. Has the court thought about seeking additional support from our membership, bearing in mind I'm not spending £75 at 6 dinners a year? Clearly I'm not loaded, but I would be willing to continue to support the company's endeavours. Any thoughts on that? Over.
I'll leave you to take that one.
That's a fantastic amount to be raised. We have to start with what PHL is, and PHL is the commercial arm of the Livery that has been set up to protect the Livery. Perhaps not from what COVID-19 is throwing at us, but that was the idea that it was set up for, so that it runs the commercial aspect of the hall, takes the commercial responsibility, and at the moment we do have the funds in the bank to get ourselves through until July. Now, after July, and which happens to be the end of the financial year, we would then have to look at where we stand and where the livery stands. At the moment, PHL is spending money and getting very little in. As I alluded to in my paper, the income from a TV or film programme using our facilities generates about £4,000 over a couple of days. You've got to remember that an event, a wedding or a charitable event in the hall generates an awful lot more than that. Average wedding is about £38,000. So we've got to be very careful not to get too excited about that, but we are moving money through. I would be reluctant at the moment, with my Chairman of PHL's hat on, to go to the livery and ask the livery for money, whilst we are still in a position to support the livery. But of course, as COVID goes on, I wouldn't be able to give any further promises, and I won't give further promises past July of next year. And if it continues in that way, we may have to readdress the way that we think about our operation. But thank you for the thought of it, and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
And Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, if I could add, from the livery point of view, we are spending money on a number of small events, but it's nowhere near the amount of money that we would be spending in a normal year, probably just under half. So the finances of the livery company itself are not in a particularly bad state, but I wouldn't want to, at this point, start spending a lot of money on events that we don't need to do. So I'm looking at how we do it, but Fozzie, thank you very much for bringing that up. It's very much appreciated. I think we have a question from the Deputy Master. Deputy.
I'm going to do, sorry. Hello, Master, hello. Thank you very much indeed for bringing us all up to date. I just wanted to ask you, you did mention obviously that PHL have been working with other livery companies to look at things generally, but I just wondered, Master, whether you have a feel, or the clerk have a feel about how other livery companies are coping at the moment. You know, are we unique? Are we, you know, is everybody in a similar boat? Would you like to comment, perhaps, just to make us feel better or worse or whatever?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Master. I think I'll take that, because I've been talking quite a lot with the other clerks, and unfortunately the Master hasn't had an opportunity to talk with too many of the Masters. But I had a meeting with 5 clerks yesterday. I would say from a livery company, we're in the same boat as most of them. From a company point of view, PHL, we are in a group of one, because we rely on the income from the hall. But from a livery point of view, a lot of companies are beginning to look at whether they close from now until February time. There are those that were about to conduct some form of refurbishment have now brought that forward. In particular, the Barbers company were doing a 3-year refurbishment over 3 years. They've now brought it all forward into 1 year, and they're going to do it in the next 6 months, much as we're doing with our hall, with our entrance hall. So we're in the same boat as most of them. Some of them don't need to worry too much about the money and are continuing to do much as they did before, albeit without any events, but having closed events for their courts and for limited numbers of members. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
I would like to just reassure members that financially we are sound. Our predecessors made sure that the affairs of our company were set up in a way that we have a limited arm, which is PHL, and the livery arm. So think of PHL has an income stream that protects the livery. The livery, its income stream is purely from its investments on its capital and from members' quarterage and fines. And even if we look at the quarterage and fines that come in annually, it would not cover the expenditure of a month of what it takes to run the livery company and keep our hall, etc., you know, updated and running. So if we were even to increase our livery fines and quarterage by 50%, it still would not cover 1 month of the expenditure.
Thank you. Thank you, Master. Any other questions? I'm just scrolling through the pages at the moment. I can't see anyone on page 1 with a hand up. I can't see anyone on page 2 with a hand up. And I can't see anyone on page 3 with a hand up. I'll go back down. Goodness, I'm so glad that we pleased everybody so quickly. I'll just go back again. If you have a question, come off mute and ask it in case I'm missing you, because we'd love to hear from you.
May I ask a question? Yes?
Yes, you sorry, yes.
Sorry,
Master,
okay, I thought I was being denied a question here. Perhaps our charity steward would like to say a few words about how the charity has been affected during these difficult times.
Thank you, Master. Excuse me. The charity's financial year end is the 5th of April, which coincides with the end of the tax year. And our funds at the end of December last year were about 2.2 million. That's our invested funds. At the time of the year end for the charity, those funds had declined to just under 1.8 million, which was quite a significant fall. But like most other investments, it had climbed back to about 2.75 million at the end of September. So the fall in the value of the investments is not significant. What has been affected is the income on those investments, because many have either suspended or reduced. So our investment income has fallen slightly. And at the moment, we budget from our investments to get about between 55 and 60,000 pounds of investment income to spend on direct charitable grants and other charitable activities. So what was bad news at the end of the financial year is better news now from the point of view of the value of our assets. But as I say, the slight decrease in the actual income that we get from those investments. If you look at our accounts for the last year, we had total income of about 108,000, of which we spent 96,000 in the year. And it's not clear yet what the total income and expenditure is going to be for the current year, because at the moment it's a bit finger in the air, it's anybody's guess. But what we are doing is continuing our support for those charities that we have committed to, and in particular continuing our support for our military and our education and training, for example, the Prince's Foundation and that sort of thing. So we are managing. We could do with some more donations and legacy income to help offset the reduction in our investment income.
Thank you, Charity Steward. And if I could just add that today I delivered on your behalf a cheque to Watches 8. Yesterday I delivered a cheque to St Paul's Choristers, and we posted two or 3 days ago our donations to Peterborough, to the Prince's Foundation and the Choir Church. And I received an email today from the Prince's Foundation thanking us very much. I'm hoping I'll get one from the other two in the next 24 hours or so. So we're on track with what we normally do. I am, of course, looking, and I know the Charity Steward is as well, looking at other ideas. If you have any ideas of areas that you think you would like to see your money be invested in terms of charitable support, please drop me a line. Please speak to the Charity Steward, and we will consider it. I will take it forward to the Charity Committee for them to consider in due course. Master.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Yes, we have a question. Yes.
Yes. Can you hear me? I tried to unmute my microphone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Got you.
Yes, oh, good. Well, I'm not Pamela, that's my wife, but it's right that her name appears here, as it's thanks to her that I'm on this system. I just wanted to say thank you all very much, Master and Clark, and the others who have been involved and have spoken at this information meeting. It's been very useful to me. I've enjoyed it hugely. And I also want to compliment you if, Clark, you were responsible for the survey. I completed the survey just the other day, and I found it amazingly interactive. Depending on your answers, you were asked different questions that appeared, which I thought was extremely useful. I'm not entirely new at using surveys and so on, but I did find it very easy to use and very useful. So thank you also for that. That's all I wanted to say.
That's immensely kind of you. Thank you. Well, I'd like to take credit, but I can't. We're very fortunate to have a livery member, Luke Seamer, who works in the survey industry, and he put it together with help from a number of other people. I was just a small cog in that, but thank you very much.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that, because I co-sponsored Luke. I know him, so I'll have to thank him directly, or at least via his mother, who I know even better, and his father.
Please do. Thank you. Right, I think we have a question. Yes, I've got a hand up. I'm looking at a very small screen, but I can see the Royals. Is that?
Thanks, Garth. It's Martin Royal. Yeah. Hi, James. Good evening. I haven't seen you. And Master, good evening. Thank you very much for the update. It's been fantastic. I've got two questions, really. One is a bit of a technical question, and I'm no technocrat. And it's about the PHL thing. Have we benefited from any insurance arrangements we've had? And the second question I wanted to raise was really about the military. I know this is what I'm really keen on, and Garth will know this because I'm ex-military. It's not so much supporting the military operational services, but the post, i.e. those people who have left the military. Are we in any position to support those people who are in dire need in this particular time? And what are we doing about that side of it? And we may not have an answer for it right now. I'm just particularly interested, in how we're dealing with supporting those particular elements. So I'll shut up now.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I tried to interrupt you. I didn't realise you had two questions. But if I take your first question, I presume you are referring to the court case with Aviva and the loss of business that was concluded and found favour in those that were claiming loss of business. Unfortunately, at the moment, our insurers, Livery's Mutual, are saying that there is no claim to answer and they are not progressing it. We are one of the livery companies that are actually unhappy about this, rightly so, because we are one of the livery companies that are losing the most with loss of business. But the clerk has looked for support and for information from his fellow clerks as to what other liveries are doing. And there seems at the moment to be no appetite for contesting Livery's Mutual telling us that there is no loss of business payment available to us. We have not given up because we feel that this is not justified. However, the difficulty is the Livery's Mutual is predominantly run by or owned by livery companies. It is set up in such a way that most of the liveries with livery halls insure through them, plus a few like the Athenaeum, Phyllis Court, and I believe the RAC and like buildings. And nobody has put their head above the parapet wall as yet to challenge this. But it is something that we are working on and would like to mount a challenge. But we are being told that there might not be any future in it because a number of other liveries have utilised the good resources that they have to read the document and have found no case to answer for them to pay us. It's got to be remembered that a lot of other livery companies don't rely so heavily on the income generated by their halls as we do. It is pretty much our sole source of income. You look at other livery companies, and actually it's a minor source of income to them. So our loss of business is probably one of the biggest loss of businesses that there is, but it is something that the clerk and I are actively pursuing to see where the legislation takes us.
Thank you, Robert. If I could answer the military one, Peter, I hope you don't mind. If you want to jump in, please do so. We're always looking at different ways of using the charitable funds that we have. Of the 5 areas that I spoke about earlier that I said I delivered checks to, 3 of those are in their 4th year of what was initially a 3-year sponsorship. So we have rolled that over to a 4th year. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to do so, and the Charity Steward and the committee will look at this in January when we meet, or sorry, later this year and early next year, to see whether we want to continue with those and maybe move that funding into other areas. There may well be funds available in year that we could use, and so I would welcome any suggestions for different areas that we could use, that we could spend our money, and I would then take that to the Charity Steward and the committee, of which I sit on the committee, but I'm only one member of it. Martin, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks very much for the report on the PHL stuff, and Garth, thanks very much for the. I'd welcome a discussion with you because I think there's some real opportunities there. Thank you.
May I just add to that? Can I just point out that of our military affiliates, as we are a charity, we can only assist military affiliates that are themselves registered charities. So we do support 282 because the Air Cadets are a registered charity, and we do support some of our other military affiliates, registered charitable trusts. But in terms of support for example, the Marines and that sort of thing, that is normally supported by the livery company, because that doesn't fall within our remit in the plasterers charity. But during the last year, we did give some money we made a small grant to Blind Veterans UK. That's just one that comes to mind at the moment. But we're always open to suggestions for other military charities. We do, however, like to look for those that have a direct connection either with the company or with the city or the wider part of London.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. I think the point I'm making is I'm involved with dealing with a whole number of people who are not dealing necessarily with direct military charities, but the outcomes of particular individuals who are suffering severe hardship. We need to make grant payments to support them, you know, for PTSD and other sort of things. So I accept exactly what you're saying. I just want to explore the opportunities. That's all. Thanks very much. Thank you.
We're always interested to hear of any opportunities for the trustees to consider.
Thank you very much, Martin. Now I'm conscious that we're hitting the hour mark, but we're very happy to stay as long as you have questions. So are there any other questions? Please, and if you feel that you need to leave, please don't feel you have to stay, please leave. But are there any other questions?
There was a hand up.
Oh, hang on. Heather, I have a question from Heather. I got to you on your, Heather, over to you.
Hi, thank you. Well, and thank you for all the information you've shared today. Just a thought in terms of income generation. I, like many who participated in the gin evening, had a fantastic event, and I'm sure would have paid a little bit more for that because it was such a lovely team experience. I just wonder if there are any other thoughts for bringing and introducing other events, whether it's quiz nights and such like, that maybe we can obviously could fund and pay towards.
Well, Heather, I think that's a good idea. I must admit, we were hoping that come October that we would be returning to our hall for at least some sort of functions, whether they be for self-distance up to 130, and then we were down to 30, and then we were down to 6. So our thoughts had been to be getting back into our hall. But we will from now on be focusing on events like that. And if you don't mind, I will certainly telephone you for your ideas, because I know you're absolutely full of them. So thank you.
And I'm very interested here. And we are looking at at some form of wine evening, probably in February, because I know most of you will probably do a dry January. So we thought we might delay that one until February. No. And some of you may have noticed that I actually filled up the chairman of PLC's PHL's glass with water, which is a first for me in the 6 months I've been here. Are there any other questions? Just looking through. Sorry, it takes me a while to scroll through. No one on the first page. Keep waving. No one on the second page. And no one on the third page. Fantastic.
Wow.
In which case,
we must have explained everything.
We must have explained it very, very well.
We had 2 or 3 bottles of wine here just in case. We've only managed to get through half a bottle.
Well, then all that remains is for me to thank you all for attending this information evening, and hoping that you did find it useful. Personally, I did find it very useful, and your questions, I appreciated your questions. So there's a lot to digest, and the message I want to leave you with this evening is just to stay resolute and remember what defines us as plasterers. Together we will overcome this crisis, and we will resurge. So please remain seated, but I ask you to raise your glasses and let the toast be, let brotherly love continue.
Brotherly love continue.
Brotherly love continue.